started my own business 5 years ago. I was approached by Harrison's to do your installs and asked if I wanted to do solar. You never say no to an opportunity and add another notch to the belt. So I jumped in and then progressed into doing 3, 4, 5 a week and needed more staff and crew and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So worked out last year, I'd done over 500 installs. We'd be up to 600 now.
So we had the roofers on site today.
Yep.
They've been on site now for about 8 or 9 months.
Yeah, there's a lot because they obviously got cleared at the cladding as well.
Got a real tricky job.
Yes.
Did you pick up any vibes from the roofers about what was going on to the beautiful roof?
Well, they seem to be all good. They never mentioned it if they did. I got them involved with the builder when we did the penetration, but they seemed to be pretty confident in what Cam had told us what to do and our process and plan. So they haven't mentioned anything. So yeah, the penetration was a big one for us. We've done a slightly a larger hole than we'd usually do. We'd usually do a 25mm hole through the iron, but we've had to do a 60mm, and the only reason for that is so we could sleeve a trade seal through that to get to the plywood. We've only done a 25mm hole through the plywood. We've put a 25mm solid conduit through, and then we've sleeved our trade seal over top of that, and then to seal that hole back up. And then we've done the reverse on the underside as well. And then we've put a deck, what they call a deck tight, which is usually what plumbers use and all that sort of stuff to then seal up the iron. Other than that, no real challenges. I mean, it's just another install for us. I would say probably around that 9:30 mark, we started to see most of the roof had sun on it, no shading. Probably, especially down the bottom, we noticed that probably that night between 8:30, 9 o'clock when we got here, it was sort of sitting around the bottom edge of the panels at the moment, just from the top ridge of this side of the roof. And this tree here was probably obscuring maybe sort of the top 2 panels over there as well. So, but they were pretty much within half an hour. That was well and truly gone.
And how does having shade in one area of the roof affect the whole output of the system?
Very minimal these days. These have got bypass diodes in them, the modern panels. So what they do is they just shut off a third or a quarter of the panel and just bypass that if it senses any shading. And the inverters these days can actually see that through their cycling too. So worst case in the morning, it might lose 4 or 5%, if that, yeah.
So in the past, people have used micro inverters to get over the single string.
You can still use those, but what the micro inverter does is it tends to bypass the whole panel rather than a portion of it.
Keep an eye on your monitoring. Through your monitoring, you're able to see your load.
It's almost a organic thing that happens when you get solar. You become so much more load conscious, which is awesome. So you start to use it to the best of its ability. When the sun's out and you're producing, there's no point letting that just sail out to the grid. You're either better off, like you said, going out to storage, going to your batteries, or using it, chucking the dishwasher on, chucking the washing machine on, the dryer, all that sort of stuff.
It's so well insulated. You'll be able to throw your aircons on for an hour or a couple of hours or whatever, and it'll stay at temperature for a long time. I've done a bit of stuff with semi-passive housing in Christchurch, and it was amazing. The end result was just amazing.
I think we've managed to sort of upsell ourselves to using a battery. Do you think that that's at a point where it's economically viable, or it's really something that people do for different reasons?
Yeah, you're probably right. I think different reasons, really. If you can afford to do it, then do it, because you're only going to see benefits. I mean, it'd be great if storage was cheaper, but you're paying for what you get with the Teslas. They're a great product.
As an owner, what are the things that I'm going to need to do to make sure that the system keeps performing optimally?
Annual cleaning, just making sure that you're keeping up with that, and that's soft brush, water, no chemicals, and just probably making sure you're not getting birds nesting underneath as well. Those are the 2 main ones.
I'm hearing that safety is a pretty important thing on the job sites.
It has to be. Yeah. It was something when I first started that was probably a little bit, because I was confident and experienced on the roof, it wasn't a huge thing for me, but it's become the more staff I have, it's just part of what we do. You have to ensure that anything over 3 meters, you've got to have something in place, whether it's a harness or edge protection. So I've invested heavily in that sort of stuff. You're using a harness, you know how to use it. It's hooked up correctly. There's a buddy system. There's a whole lot of steps you go before you even get on the roof these days. Yeah. With the nature of this style of roof, it being a flat, there's no sort of real way to grip. And so it's all around that. So the harnesses and things like that become, obviously they're important for safety, but they also can be a hindrance in terms of maneuvering things. Nobody's fallen off. That's always a fear, I suppose. That's the one, probably the worst case.
But even this morning was the same. The roof was dewy, and we kind of had to.
Yeah, we waited for that.
We just sit tight for 20 minutes.
Just while the sun burns it off. Yeah. But you got to make. It's just about making good decisions. There's no point rushing into things, especially at the risk of not only yourself but everybody else. That'd be the worst phone call you'd have to make, to be honest. So it's just nothing's worth. It's all right to wait another half an hour, So with installations, there's always the chance. I mean, DC is dangerous. It is really dangerous. You have to be super careful around plugging stuff in and ensuring that you're connecting the right cables.
Is there an element of risk to the guys that are on the roof as they're installing things?
Not from an electrical point of view, just purely around the falling risk, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. If we plug that in, there's going to be near 600 volts of DC down in your garage.
Wow. Okay.
So that's part of the safety stuff. So what we do is we leave certain parts unplugged to that allow that not to happen. So what we do when we come and fit it off, install the inverters and all that sort of stuff, we'll chuck a rope up and we'll come up and we'll plug those in once they're inside the inverter. When I first started doing solar, it was probably I saw it as a good business opportunity. But I think the more I've got into it, when I first started, I didn't have solar. Now I do. I've got a battery, and so I see the huge benefits to it, not only for people and on their home, but also the infrastructure. It's only but beneficial to everybody, really. I think that's why I really enjoy doing it and talking about it too. Always trying to sell it to everybody that it's a great idea. Favorite brand of sneaker. It's mixed. I've had a go on everything. I much prefer the volleys. I do still have a pair, but I run Chucks.
Chucks,
Yep. The volleys tend to grip for longer. The Chucks seem to give out a little bit more. Some guys actually like the boot, the standard work boot. However, I find that they can be quite harsh on roofs. The softer soles are a lot nicer. The Vans as well. So Tyler runs a Van and he said that's pretty good as well. I haven't had to go on one of those yet.
Any Crocs on site?
There was, yeah. They were. He put them in sports mode to climb a portion of it, but found that they were starting to give out a little bit. Yeah. Other than that, no real challenges. I mean, it's just another install for us, but it's just probably just a little bit harder than usual. It's all, yeah. I wasn't really part of this journey.